This is Olivia Otterstedt presenting my mini ethnography presentation based on Peloton's 2019 Christmas bike advertisement. A brief intro into the brand in this ad. Peloton produces high-end exercise equipment. In 2019, their Christmas ad was released over the holiday season and immediately received backlash from the public, so much so that the company's stock fell by 9% just a day after the video was released. As background reference, the Peloton bike cost $2,245. Based on the reaction Peloton received for this ad, I wanted to find out more about the audience's perception of it. So my primary research question became, how do audience interpretations of the 2019 Peloton Christmas ad vary by demographics such as gender, age, marital status, income, occupation, and education? In order to answer this question, I found that the best research methods would be a combination of oral history and in-depth interviews. Oral history is interviewing people about their past experiences and memories. This was helpful in finding out about my participants' experience and knowledge of the brand. The next research step was in-depth interviews, which enable us to find out about people's ideas, opinions, and attitudes. This method allowed me to ask relevant questions pertaining to their perceptions of the ad. Based on my research questions and methods, I needed to find 3 informants that fit the following parameters: both male and female, ages 25 through 60, diverse in income, occupation, education, and married in order to better relate to the ad. Overall, the combination of these 2 research methods were effective for the following reasons. It allowed me to reach key interviewees despite their geographic disbursement. I was living in Italy at the time I conducted these interviews, so the restrictions placed there prevented us from meeting in person, so this was an ideal format. It also gave us the ability to freely discuss thoughts without interruptions or competing views from additional interviewees. My first interviewee was Elizabeth Bergen. She's a 31-year-old female, has an income of $75,000. She is a licensed professional counselor and program coordinator. She has her doctorate degree and she's married. Prior to watching this ad, Elizabeth had heard of the brand Peloton. However, she's never owned a Peloton bike and has never been very interested in owning one, generally due to its steep prices. This was her first time seeing the ad, and here are her initial thoughts after watching it.
I appreciate the sentiment that exercise is empowering, and having a Peloton can allow for a really great workout that fits into the schedule of a busy working woman. But I wish there had been more differentiation from diet and women can do it all culture to highlight empowerment, self-efficacy, listening to your own body, and being healthy for yourself, rather than conforming to high standards of career and femininity.
Elizabeth described the ad's target audience as middle-class working women, and when I asked her if she found that the ad at all offensive, here was her response.
I wasn't offended by anything within this commercial, but I also wasn't attracted to it. I think my reaction was more around being annoyed to see women depicted as having it all, when the reality is that it's so much more of a struggle. I just couldn't really relate to having sparkling clean floors and bouncing off for a workout as part of my typical day-to-day.
I asked Elizabeth what ideology stood out to her, and she said diet culture and the cultural value that women must be fit, beautiful, and have perfect homes. The last thing I asked Elizabeth was what, if anything, would she change about the ad, and her response was to better capture the difficulty of the woman's journey on the Peloton bike. So after viewing this commercial, Elizabeth is still not interested in owning a Peloton bike. My next interviewee was Amy Holden. She is a 54-year-old female. She has an income of $125,000. She's a web services design business owner. She has her bachelor's degree and she's married. Prior to watching this ad, Amy Holden had heard of the brand Peloton, but did not know much about the bike itself. She lives an active lifestyle and is interested in cycling, but unsure about which brand she would pursue. This was also her first time viewing this ad, so here's her response when I asked what her initial thoughts were.
That's a good question, because I'm not sure I thought much about it after I watched it. It seemed like a feel-good video about people accomplishing things, but I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
So it didn't really
Positively or negatively or anything like that.
Okay. Amy saw the target audience as young women and specifically young mothers. She also pointed out that she didn't think this commercial applied to all women, as you have to have enough money to afford a Peloton bike. When I asked her if she found the ad offensive at all, here's what she said. So did you find anything offensive about the commercial?
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Does it surprise you if I tell you that a lot of people did find it offensive?
Yes, I do know that, and I think that's crazy because I can't imagine what you would be offended by.
The ideology that stood out most to Amy was the role that husbands and wives play in supporting one another. Overall, Amy has no suggested changes for the ad, but she's still not interested in owning one herself. My final interviewee was Matt Otterstedt. Matt also lives in, Matt is a 29-year-old male. His income is $80,000. He's an officer in the U.S. Army. He's currently pursuing his master's degree and he's married. Matt also lives an active lifestyle, both by choice and career. He had never heard of the brand Peloton and had never seen this ad before, but he expressed interest in owning a stationary bike. Here are his initial thoughts after watching the ad.
After I initially watched it, I thought it was a decent ad. It showed a husband who clearly listened to a want or a goal that his wife had and made a pretty good purchase to empower her in that goal.
He found the target audience to be high-income, dual-working families. Even though the wife was only shown using the bike, he pointed out that it had to have been a family purchase. I then asked him if he found anything offensive about the ad, and here's what he said.
I did not find it offensive. Upon seeing some of the reviews of the ad, I do kind of understand where some of the scrutiny could come from. But again, overall, I think her excitement and the initial clip of her receiving the Peloton, to me, it shows that a husband was listening to his wife and empowered.
The main ideologies Matt picked up on were gender role-based. He said he saw the ad as portraying an image of spouses supporting each other, mainly a husband supporting his wife's goals. Matt's changes to the ad include to show the husband using the bike as well as other various households. Despite these changes, Matt expressed definite interest in owning a Peloton bike after watching this ad. Based on my thematic analysis and interpretation of the findings, I was able to organize the participants' differences and similarities based on their demographic backgrounds. Gender-related findings include that both females were not interested in owning a Peloton bike while the male was. The female saw the target audience as higher income working women, while the male saw it as high income working couples or families. Age-related findings were that the two millennials would change the ad, while the Gen Xer would not. Occupation, education-related findings were that the doctor or counselor was discouraged by the ad's overall message to females, while the Army captain and business owner both saw ideology of spousal support and female empowerment, and they also commended the husband for listening to his wife. Income-related findings were that despite income, none of the participants own a Peloton, and they all saw the brand as an expensive product. Commonality between all participants is that despite demographics, they all deemed the ad not offensive. So after taking an analysis from my interviews, I can conclude that the answer to my research question is yes. Audience perceptions of the Peloton ad do vary by demographics. Even though the ad is seemingly targeted at women, the ad was surprisingly only effective in striking interest in my male interviewee. In my videographic essay analysis, I concluded that the ad's messaging portrayed the idea that the bike is best suited for women. But based on that analysis and my ethnographic findings, I wonder if the brand should rethink their target audience and overall marketing strategy, given that neither female was interested in owning a bike after watching the ad, however the male was. I also found that I related most of the millennials' response in desiring changes for the ad, whereas the Gen Xer didn't see the need for those changes. In my videographic essay, I concluded that the ad seems to have been a missed opportunity for Peloton to target a broader, more inclusive audience using a more understanding, gender-conscious approach. Both Elizabeth and Matt touched on this in their responses, while Amy was satisfied with the ad's messaging, even though she was still not interested in purchasing one. Some ways to improve this research include to interview a wider data pool. It was difficult to capture a full range of demographic differences when being limited to just 3 interviewees. Because of this, I wanted to somewhat limit the variables in order to capture some key differences and similarities, which are highlighted in my findings. If I had more participants in the study, I would make sure to include more marital diversity, and I'd also include race and socioeconomic diversity. Lastly, I'd be curious about the benefits of doing a focus group versus individual interviews. Focus groups have the potential to bring like groups of people together and further facilitate discussion on a specific topic or issue as cited in Stokes 2013, page 187. Here are my references, and that's a wrap. Thanks for watching, and I'm looking forward to the feedback.